Welcome to the Art of Conversation with Noelle McAlinden, here in Clough House at the Oriel Gallery in Antrim Castle Gardens. Join me in an authentic conversation with good friend Paul Joy. His exhibition, Between the Spaces, is currently here in the Oriel Gallery, and it runs from the 4th of June until the 18th of July. I'm delighted to be here with Paul Jordan, artist and arts educationist, here in the Oriel Gallery at Clough House, in the grounds of Antrim Castle. Paul, I'm delighted that you're joining me here.
Thank you.
This exhibition, Between the Spaces, is unbelievable, Paul. I have known you almost 40 years now. I've known you as an artist and an arts educationist, a ceramist, as well as a painter. And I know this exhibition opened on the 4th of June and runs until the 14th or 18th of July. And initially the plan was 30 exhibits. I think you've over 55 now. And it's a beautiful celebration of your talent as both an artist and a ceramist. So tell me about the exhibition and the genesis of this.
Well, Between the Spaces, I was considering a theme. The previous two themes from last exhibitions, one was Convergence, which was here, I think around 2014. And it was quite a big show. Basically, it was, the theme was bogland, and it was an exploration of bogland and what that meant to me, because I'm surrounded where I live and surrounded with maybe 3 different areas of bogland.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, there's the environmental issue with it, but I have to say that I enjoyed that exhibition in the sense that it was mostly painting outdoors and just exploring the fauna and the colours that are there in great creation in the Borough. So that was Convergence. And then in 2018 there was an exhibition in the Great Art Centre, which was a collective between 4 artists, 2 painters, a photographer, and myself. And it was exploring the urban, the changing urban environment, urban and rural places. And we'll probably see later on some of that I have here was really focusing on the human dimension of that. Changing environments, changing communities, displacement in some senses, where people have just found that the changes have come about too rapidly, redevelopment and so forth. So this exhibition is like I was thinking that they're like bookends. It's like a bookend. It's brought those two exhibitions together in a type of retrospective. Now I know I'm too young for that. It's supposed to happen much later in life, but I thought this was as good as time as ever just to celebrate those 2 exhibitions again, with a few added things to it. Again, to do with the local lock and that environmental issue that's pending at the moment. It was also about maybe putting a marker down in terms of time for myself as an artist, between the spaces, between the last exhibitions and where I am now as a creative. And so that was really just the canvas for bringing this volume of work together. Some of it hasn't been seen before. Some of the pieces, you have to make a selection of what you think's going to work. But I've pulled out nearly everything, with the exception of the pieces that I've kept at home.
And you'll tell me this is your father here?
Yes, that's my father and his uncle, which is my great uncle. And down below here is a picture of my grandfather. So they were part of the Traces exhibition in the Great Art Centre. And it was a brief to explore the changing urban and rural environment in the area. And each of the artists took a particular theme. And, growing up in Ballymena, as a young man, leaving school, no qualifications. Most of my early employment was in factories. And, you know, I was there but I wasn't there. And in a sense, I had a sense that there was maybe something calling me somewhere. And so thankfully most of the work was very brief. And I went from factory to factory. But the people that I met there formed part of this exhibition because I'd always taken photographs. And even before art education and art college. And some of these individuals, I worked out a process of lithographic printing using art designs on ceramics. And, you know, using that as a resource and those memories of coal men. Some references to the spinning mill here, bobbins.
Yes.
So it was a biographical record or celebration of people I remembered. Yeah.
And this, you know, the broken, the damaged, you know, held together, you know, the past and present fused, you know, and the images, the precious images as well.
Yeah.
Almost like little temples.
Of course, and a lot of the, you know, the wood there has been reclaimed, floorboards, old wallpaper, like you say, and, you know, very often things you'll find in derelict buildings, you know, and so just trying to emphasise that idea, that concept of time, passing of time, of a different age. And in the case of this one here, it's a union march outside a factory, and just the challenges of the proletariat, shall we call them, working people at that time for better rights,
yes.
Employment rights and so forth.
And providing for their families under very difficult circumstances.
Yes. So that was all part of the fabric and the picture of the times. Nothing has changed very much.
No.
There are still workers seeking rights and there are improvements in employment.
And the human rights
and the human rights as well. Yeah. So I think that I have a strong sense of that working class background.
And it's a beautiful celebration, as I said before, of your skills as a ceramicist and as a painter. And there is an intimacy, definitely, that you can experience in this gorgeous space, this gallery here. It's a beautiful space, and the light, the interplay between the natural light coming in from outside, but also the light and the source of imagery and the colours that you use is very, very powerful. We're in front of this piece here, again inspired by bogland, fresh, lush, green. But you've always had a compassion for the environment. And interestingly, this is one of the few pieces that you don't involve texture, ironically. But you've created that with the paint in terms of the colour.
Yeah.
You know.
I like to work across all mediums.
Yeah.
Watercolour, I love watercolour, I love drawing, it's central to it all. And that spontaneity of using water-based paints and just the drying time and the quality of them. And so sometimes my oil paintings try to recapture that lightness of stain of colour, pigment. But this painting, all of these paintings are from places, and they also contain memories of people who, either in terms of these paintings or the bog paintings, people who worked the bog, you know, cut turf. And so, you know, it's just trying to capture that sense of things. Not always easy, because you can overwork your paintings or your drawings too much. But no, I like dripping. I like the fluidity of painting. And with the oils, it's a technical rendering that I tend to do sometimes. But I do tend to work quite quickly if I can, just to capture energy and to express that energy.
And especially when you're plein air painting as well.
Yes, because it's a dialogue. You know, I find more and more it's about getting yourself out of the road, and it's about seeing and listening to what's coming from the subject matter.
Yes.
And it is a conversation in many ways. And and then it's, you get to a point where you just leave it and allow it to speak for itself.
Yeah, and it's knowing when to do that, because sometimes, as you said, you can overwork the pieces as well. And it's interesting we're talking about layering and dripping and painting and staining, the surface as well. And those are techniques and strategies you use as well in your ceramics as well, whether they are, glazes or, underglaze colours, or, surfaces and techniques that you manipulate as well within clay. And in this exhibition, you've illustrated actually, particularly through the Icon series, that combination of both painting and application of clay and texture of clay. And I am just intrigued by the pieces in the Icon series. I just find them really, really intriguing, yes, but there's so much of them. And you talked about the interplay as well between the urban and the natural environment as well, and of course the people and the places in between. The spaces, between the spaces is a very apt title, and allowing that time for the material to react to the surface, but that time for the artist to pause as well and reflect too.
I work conceptually, and then I just like to go and paint.
Yes.
And paint representationally. And,
yes.
So this was simply called Green. I just knew I wanted to capture the boat's design.
Yes.
This is the marina in Antrim. But then just drawing a subtle attention to the water and that issue that's there with the
algae,
yes,
of course,
without doing anything too loud or too politically about it. But then the trees gave me the opportunity to do reflection that could have been to do with
and these on either side are very, very subtle. These pieces here. Which is your preference, to work in clay or to work in paint?
I have no preference. It's a different approach, different processes. Going back to the paintings and just this one behind us, which is Bog Bank, and just that we're speaking the fluidity of using paint.
Yes.
And some of the other bog series, they're very heavily textured, applied board, masonry to build off the surface. And I think that's touching a bit on my interest in ceramics, which is three-dimensional form.
And of course the palette as well, in many cases, is much darker and much earthy. This is very, very pure in the colours that you've used and the tones as well. What strikes me about this exhibition, and there was a wonderful launch that we celebrated with you on the 4th of June, and with a huge crowd, an absolutely huge crowd of family, friends, fellow artists, arts educationists as well. But what was lovely to experience, Paul, was the diversity of scale and scope of pieces that you've exhibited. And some people often feel intimidated coming into a gallery because they feel they need to know the artist or they need to know something about the art form. But what you have done here is you've made the exhibition very relatable in terms of people, in terms of place, in terms of context as well. And I know the exhibition takes place on 2 floors here in this gallery, and we'll get a chance to have a walk around and see these. But there's a beauty and an energy, and I mentioned the intimacy before. Has that always, do you think, been something that you've always strived to have in your work?
It's nice that your work's appreciated. That's the first thing. And just looking at the comments in the books, there are comments of appreciation, and that's always nice. But you wouldn't be doing art just solely for approval.
No.
Because there's something to be said. I think that's at the soul of the creatives, and working that reality out on the work. I can remember the Convergence exhibition I had in 2014, And on a particular Saturday I was here, and there was a group of, it was a club, a painting club from down around County Down somewhere. And these retired gentlemen and ladies came in and were taking our exhibition. And then I had a chat with them, and they duly left. And about 5 minutes again, 3 of the ladies came back in really excited. And they said to me, we are so delighted that we have come here today because we have a friend with us today who had just lost his partner, his wife. And he's been a lifelong member of the club, and he said he would never ever paint again. And he saw your work, and he has just decided to start painting again. So the value of art is incomprehensible. And I thought at the time, if there was ever any value about this exhibition, that was why that exhibition was on. And so it's nice to have comments, certainly, and people to appreciate work. And that open night was very, very enjoyable, very casual and friendly and so forth. But you know, I think what motivates you or keeps the momentum going is just there is something hidden within us that we want to try and reveal.
Yeah, and I suppose that validation sometimes can certainly help with the ego, but I think both of us are drawn to the importance of art in terms of our mental health and well-being, in terms of the impact it can have on other people. Again, whether no matter what age or stage you are in life, whether it's early years, whether it's retirement, whether it's coming through bereavement, there's something about the intimacy and a sense of connection that the arts can provide, and a sense of solace, I think, as well. I mean, you've taught in schools, you've taught in community hall, you've worked with a whole range of age groups, and I know one of your passions is to encourage and empower others to make their mark as well. And you've recently retired from full-time arts education, and I know that you have many plans. I know that you are, in terms of exhibiting, you've exhibited, very successfully across the island of Ireland, north and south, and within the Royal Ulster Academy as well. And the opportunity to have your solo exhibitions requires great discipline and great focus, particularly when you're working full time as well over the years. I would have been witness to many of your solo shows and group shows. How important do you think it is to be part of a community of artists, or to be in the company of other artists for your own development?
Yeah, without saying it's crucial. Yeah. Because it is a very solitary vocation, I can call it that, being a creative, and you need to grow. I think, and certainly having other artists around you, like it's a community, and communities support one another and encourage, and they're also critical as well, in a positive way.
Yes.
And so thankfully I've got a number of artists that I know that I can share ideas with and ask opinions if you're sort of answering big things. But we weren't meant to be solitude creatures.
No.
And life in general, and being in the arts, because it's such a soulful activity. There's also a vulnerability there.
Yes. That
you have to guard and protect as much as you can. Not always, I know, but when you've got a group of friends or confidants that understand what art's about, and it's crucial, I think, and very important.
And I suppose it's like having an extended tribe, and critical friends as well, that can give you objective support as well. And I think for all of us, there are opportunities to shrink and grow in all of our practice as artists and creatives. And I think too, coming from a background as an arts educationist as well, that you value that knowledge, you value that lifelong learning opportunity as well to develop and grow as an artist, but also as a student. I think we're all lifelong learners, without a doubt. Who has been the greatest influence to you as an artist?
As an artist, oh my goodness. As an artist, my goodness, I have so many. And as an art educator, your life is filled with images of the great artists and local artists, and I think John Piper would probably be, in terms of modern artists, the English watercolours,
Yes.
would have been a big influence on certainly my work and how it sort of has projected in some ways. Bill Viola, from a different area completely, filmmaking and videography, taken by the themes that he explores, life-centered themes of life, death, suffering, resurrection. I find them very poignant and real. Artist Brian Ballard, I just love his freedom of work and his colour palette.
And he's so active, so proactive in his vendor painting, you know.
Inspiration.
Uh-huh.
And Erwin Basil Blackshaw. I think maybe the first exhibition I had in 1987, for Soul exhibition, would have been here as well. But it was during the time that Clotworthy was burnt, and therefore the exhibition was over in Downthorne.
That's right, I remember that.
A long time ago. And Basil had come along and left a beautiful letter of encouragement, and just at that time I was preparing for teaching education, and so there was an opportunity there to be, but certainly Basil, I think Basil would have been a big influence in many ways, and his love of the landscape as well.
And it's interesting what you were saying there to Paul earlier about, you know, the stimulus that often is the landscape of the people and the experiences, and I suppose the chapters in life that we experience, the losses as well as the gains, the importance of family, the importance of our own spirituality, you know, too. And I suppose at this next stage of your life, where you're reflecting on what has gone before, and this sense of a curious child about what's looking forward to what's next, you know. And I suppose that's the beauty about the arts. You know, there's opportunities to change, to develop, and to grow. But what's very, very obvious here is that there's a gorgeous sense of energy, curiosity, and also this idea of being, you know, experimental. You know, experimental with the media, with the materials, with the scale, with the scope, with the subject matter, and yet it all works. It's beautifully hung. I know that Philip has done a great job here at Clotworthy as well, and I know that we've worked very closely together and how the actual final exhibition has come together. But the interplay of light and the interplay of, you know, the substance that you've created within the pieces, it's very, very powerful, you know. And to see the way it's lit here now on a Sunday afternoon, you know, with bright light, natural light as well as artificial light, every time you come to see the exhibition, it looks different because of the interplay of that light, but also too because of the certain pieces that you know, the way it's like any exhibition, you need to go back again and again, and certain pieces stand out or resonate.
I love this. It's a pilgrimage during the day. Just go around and you see the pieces always different, and little details pop out, and that's something for artists to capitalise on. And I have been in did a little bit of drawing, sort of revisiting ideas and so forth. But the gallery's exceptional.
It's a gorgeous space, and the gardens as well. And I suppose the reality too is that as an artist, the focus is very much on the production aspect. Then getting the work, you know, ready for exhibition takes an incredible amount of courage, you know, and you can't be too thin-skinned because, you know, there's always going to be critics, there's always going to be somebody who's going to make comments, you know, as well. But it's a lovely privilege when you can listen and hear what people have got to say and don't actually realise that you're the artist. Have you found that? That's a being present during that time.
Some nice comments, but mostly positive. Yeah.
So what was the source of this piece here?
Again, bogland and bog banks and composition, it just, like most of these paintings, there's a small horizon and a contrast with colours. But within the darkness of peat, there's such a reflection of colour.
And any glimpses of water that capture the light is powerful as well, because where I live, where I'm from, the bog would have been a big source of employment, you know, and my father would have worked in the bog when he was much younger, you know. But
and I worked in the bog with my wife's Magennis family.
That's right.
And then met some wonderful, wise characters who dug turf right through the year. And, you know, they would have simply abandoned their wheelbarrow and their cutting implements.
Yes.
And sometimes you would find this really intense reflection of light, often because they're metal usually. And, you know, and that was a part of the subject as well, was just picking these very sort of contrasted bright light against the dark intensity of the world.
And the real sense of community.
You're a graduate of Belfast School of Art. You completed the foundation year and then you specialised in ceramics. And of course then your teaching career then one has to be supportive and inspiring students in a number of different media materials and processes. You've also had a huge interest in human rights. This exhibition is particularly poignant at this time. Tell me a little bit why you've chosen to do what you've chosen to do.
Interest in human rights. You know, art teaching, I've been teaching citizenship for a number of years, and we should all be concerned with rights, particularly now across the world. There's great shifts, political shifts. But also we look at some of the issues with war and starvation and poverty, and there are always things that are manifest through the ages. But this exhibition, I think, having it up and being aware of the issues that we see daily on the news, that and I'd sort of pondered it for a time that, you know, to make some sort of contribution if you were able to, and why not art? Art for aid. And so this exhibition just made the decision that the proceeds from this year would go to a charity, and one of the humanitarian charities that there are at the minute doing great work is Doctors Without Borders, Médecins Sans Frontières. So that's where the proceeds from the sales are going, just to help them a little bit, their work throughout the globe.
And you wanted to raise awareness because there is a connection with Queen's University. You've mentioned as well that you wanted to highlight too. I couldn't believe it, Paul, because when you invited me to help launch the exhibition, the first thing I was shocked at were the prices. I think I said that to you. If I'd been here earlier, I would be saying, Paul, you need to change your prices. But you deliberately wanted to have the prices affordable because you wanted all of the proceeds to go to Doctors Without Borders because of the work, you know, that's needed. And I thought that was incredibly generous given the volume of work, the quality of work, and also the diversity as well. You know,
it just seemed appropriate, and it is very appropriate that you do what you can, and I'm able to do it. And far better these paintings being someone else's home and the value of that going somewhere else for a good cause than just simply sitting in your gallery.
I spoke to quite a number of people who purchased on the night, and they were absolutely thrilled and delighted with their purchase, and also the opportunity to do something really, really good, but also that they've invested in something that, you know, is a lifelong companion. You know, a piece of art is definitely something that you live with, and you can obviously support a local artist as well. And it was lovely to witness that too. In terms of the challenges facing artists, Paul, you know had been working full time as an art and design teacher, assistantship as well. But you know you've had to manage your time very, very carefully to be able to focus and prioritise your own creativity as well. What do you think the greatest challenges are for artists who are solely, focused on their artwork in today's world?
Do you know being able to work within education in a subject area that I love has been a great gift to have been able to do that, and in turn to sustain your practice.
Yes.
And certainly that's not the case for all artists, and that I have a few friends who continue to work, but they're double jobbing, and they're just, so the financial implications of pursuing art, unfortunately, can be very, very difficult. And overlooked, I think, is the fact that art, or the work of artists, an artist is mystic, in that they can read not only the times, and we see that through art history, but they can also bring to the fore those things of human nature and time and societies that would remain hidden. So it's crucial for the arts to be sustained, to be supported, for arts to be sustained and supported and valued, and particularly those that are great artists. For me, they're the ones that make comment about the politicising of the world and really just society and how society is. So yeah, it's a difficult one. Finances and to maintain your work isn't always easy. So I'm in a situation where I have retired, and
or is that
it's a great
refired?
opportunity. Refired, reborn, whatever you want to call it, a rebirth.
Yeah.
In some ways, it hasn't been easy sustaining both, because teaching is very demanding.
Yes.
You have to be committed to your teaching. I've enjoyed every moment of it. Find it challenging. Do you know, I just have enjoyed immensely working with young people and through the key stages.
And the first time I met you, Paul, you were a youth worker, and I know that when you look at today's world and the importance of the arts and how in some cases the curriculum is being eroded, certainly the arts curriculum, and yet the value of being involved in the arts and the creative and the expressive and the performing arts, the benefits to children's confidence and self-esteem, particularly with COVID. There are huge challenges there for not only generally mental health, but mental health and well-being of young people as well. So I know that you get the value of what it is that you do. You may not fully understand the impact that you have had as an educator at a community level, at an intergenerational level, because your students are students obviously of school age, but students are much older.
Well, these are autobiographical. This one here is called Old Soldier in the Raglan. This old soldier is my father. It's portrayed on him, and very often I have to go at a certain time of the week and see if he was in the bar. And in this particular bar, the Raglan, they had songbirds, men only. So this would have been early 70s.
Yeah.
And you would have only seen a lady in a bar if she was accompanied with her husband or partner or whatever. But this was a ritual that all of my siblings went through to discover where your father was.
Yes.
He was a wonderful man.
I met him, a lovely character as well. I'm curious to know, Paul, what's next? What ambitions do you have next for your next chapter?
I certainly want to sort of travel a bit.
Yes.
Be free for a while, just chill out, hang out, paint out.
Yeah. And family time is very important too.
And family
So
time.
you're between as parents and grandparents as well.
Of course. And my wife Martina has been a great support through the years.
I know, just said that, you're almost 50 years.
Yes, I know. It's only
and I suppose, Paul, the other aspect as well is that I've always known you to be inspired by wherever you've been, whether it's travelling internationally or at home in the bogland, or in Slemish, all of those places that have an emotional connection for you. That's very, very poignant, and it's very, very poignant in the work. And I'm looking forward now to see what's next.
It's exciting. The places I've had the privilege of travelling to Asia. I have loads of drawings and drawers that I'm pulling out and looking at and thinking, how can I use these? And central to all of my work is drawing. I've really enjoyed that travelling aspect of, I suppose, even study travel. And seeing the work of the artists and the galleries and great artists and artists that are not known very well. There's volumes of them, yet their work's still important. And so, the future's it's the rebirth in many ways. So.
And what encouragement would you give to an emerging young artist? What words of encouragement would you give?
Persist. If that's your call in life, your vocation, because I think it is, it has to be sustained. I think once you identify that gift that you've been offered, is find the vocabulary then to express that. It's very obvious to say that, but there's value in that, and be persistent, regardless of how it's received. Just what you were saying earlier about critical acclaim, and it's an opinion, but be careful how or who you ask about your work.
And who you listen to.
Exactly.
Paul, it's an absolute privilege to be here today to celebrate this exhibition, and may you continue to make your mark, whether it's on canvas, on board, on clay. I've no doubt you'll continue to inspire, and every good health to you, Martina, in your next stage of refinement. Thank you.
Thank you.